Hi and welcome back to the channel, and in today's video we're going old school. It's pretty unusual for us to be dealing with anything bar Subarus. I know we do a few different types of cars along the way, and it's certainly been a while since we've done something completely different. And for us to have two Mitsubishis in the workshop is also very unusual. Now when I said old school, I mean old school. This beast here is a 1988 Mitsubishi Galant VR4. It could be considered as the father or maybe the grandfather of the modern Lancer evolution. Basically, these things was Mitsubishi's way of entering Group A four-wheel drive turbo rallying in the late 80s. Now, it wasn't Mitsubishi's first foray into four-wheel drive. They did, in the mid-80s, start building a Group B Starion that was going to be four-wheel drive. However, this was really their first big attempt at getting into the Group A rally situation, which of course led to multiple championships with the Evo. So from what we've been able to piece together, this particular car was built by Rally Art in South Australia and it was built to Group N specs. Now we're not sure whether it was a works car or whether it was for privateers or not. However, we do know it has been touring around the eastern states for the bulk of its life. It does have a lot of bits and pieces and modifications in there from multiple owners. We'll have a look at some of those. Now the current owner has brought the car in from the eastern states to Western Australia and then brought it into us and said, look, can you go through it, give us an idea of what it needs and get it ready. We're going to do a bit of a restoration on it to get it ready to actually go rallying again. So we've had a good look at it already and written a long list of bits and pieces that need to be sorted out on it. Thankfully, there's nothing major. We'll take a bit of a look of that shortly. So let's go through the specs with this particular car. Basically, the Lancer Evo 1 to 3 had very similar running gear in it. It wasn't the first time that manufacturers had done that sort of thing. Subaru did it with the Legacy and Ford did it with the Sierra Cosworth. Basically, they developed it all in the bigger cars and then got it into the smaller cars or the smaller body shells. This sort of running gear went into the Lancer. Subaru took the Legacy running gear and put it into the Impreza, and Ford took theirs and put it into the Escort Cosworth. So it was a tried and true way of doing things in the early 90s. Now this particular machine is powered by Mitsubishi's legendary 4G63 engine, turbocharged, intercooled, four-wheel drive. Now some of the VR4s had four-wheel steering. This particular model doesn't have it. It's an RS version which was sort of designed for rallying. It has DMS suspension under there, and apart from that, it's pretty much Group N all the way through. It's got the Group N or pretty much the standard brakes on it, and there's a lot of bits and pieces that give evidence that it was all Group N. It has Wolf 3D engine management under there, which is a older version, and we're going to remove that and take that out. It's still running some of its bits and pieces from factory, like the factory air filter, so we're going to do away with all that as well. Tidy up all the wiring, particularly around the ignition and the injection. We're going to change it over from the standard system with a coil pack and igniter to a coil on plug conversion kit as well, which makes things a lot simpler and easier, and also it's a reliability thing. We're going to replumb all the brake and fuel lines, and we'll take a bit of a look underneath at those. Right, so let's have a look underneath this car and see what it is we are dealing with here. It is actually, floor pan wise, not too bad under here. Exhaust is all squashed. That's pretty common. It's like flattened almost in half there. Yeah, it's had some work done on it. It's got what looks like 50mm DMS in there. I believe those have been rebuilt at the rear. It's supposed to have LSDs in it front and rear as well, which it certainly seems like it does. Things are not terrible under there. That's pretty common for, in fact, it's actually in pretty good nick for a car of this age. There's a few, yeah, okay, all right. It's a tail shaft light. It's actually not too bad. What else have we got going on here that needs to be looked into? We'll need to get the sump guard off to have a good look underneath there. But anyway, apart from it being a bit muddy under here, I don't see any scars of major damage, which is definitely a good thing. There is something, however, we're going to sort all this out anyway. I don't know if the camera is going to pick that up in there, but where the brake lines come through, for a start, I don't like this with these brake lines running underneath the car, brake and fuel. It's something we're definitely going to sort that out and replace them and make them braided lines and run them inboard. I don't know if you can see in here, but basically this little monstrosity in there is actually where the hydraulic handbrake's been plumbed in and comes through the floor. That's terrible. Who did that? It's not really very flash at all, so we'll sort all that out and change that. We're not going to keep that in position, I don't think. Also, surprisingly, this is an interesting one as well. The existing handbrake cables are still in the car running underneath, so we'll remove them and get them out. It has got braided brake lines of sorts in it already, so it does give us a good start. We can pick it up from the hard line. I'm not sure, we'll work out what we're going to do with that anyway and get those sorted out. It's not ideal either. Anyway, look at this, running on the tyre. Right, that's a bit of a better look in there at what's going on. That is not very excellent at all. I'll get this old bracing off and it comes up here to this. Yeah, we're going to replace all that. That's one of the very oddball things in this car is the handbrake setup. And we've already started doing a bit of work on this because here was the factory handbrake cables. However, they weren't connected underneath the car. So we're going to replace that whole setup and all of the pretty awesome looking brake plumbing with a bit of a tidier setup, I think. So, yeah, it's been a good couple of weeks, if not more, since I started this video. And, well, basically COVID's been through the workshop and leveled us all. And unfortunately, we lost a couple of weeks there with getting over it. And now finally back in the workshop. And in that time, a lot has happened and nothing. Haven't been able to get any work done in the workshop. However, also had the first state rally of the year, and myself and a couple of other teammates, we didn't get to go. So we'll get a video together for that. The rest of the team went and we had a good run. But anyway, so now finally it's time to get stuck back into this VR4. In the last couple of days was really getting back in the workshop and getting everything sorted out. However, did get some work done on it. Got the hard lines out of it, the old fuel lines. They were in a pretty bad state under there, and yeah, that took a bit of effort to cut them out and get them done. But anyway, they're cut out and unbolted and whatever and out now, and have started running the braided lines through the car. The firewalls have been drilled already and the grommets are in, so we'll just get rocking and rolling with the rest of it. All right, let's go. Righto, so finally got the braided lines in. Can only see the start of this journey under the engine bay here. There's still a long way to go with a lot to tidy up in this engine bay. As you can see, it's a very complicated concoction of pipes and cables that we'll have to try and straighten out as we go through this all, including getting these brake lines sorted out, because that is very average. Yes, that is the brake line there. I'll try and point at it from here. Yeah, not very well done. So we'll start getting into that and start changing out the brake lines to braided lines in a sec. So inside the car, this is the route for the braided lines. Much better inboard than underneath the car, where it was all squashed and caved in underneath before. Not the easiest to see there around the helmet, hammock and the harnesses. At the moment, cable ties are only there temporarily because we've still got to run the brake lines through, but it just made sure that we could get the fuel lines in the right spot. And we've started work removing the monstrosity of a hydraulic handbrake. That whole lot's going to come out shortly. And there are the new braided fuel lines running through, and then through new grommets in the firewall there. So a much neater job. Okay, so this is everything sort of beginning to look like it's supposed to now. The bracket earlier on that I made, that's it there, the 5 or 6 mil aluminium bracket to hold the hydraulic handbrake in place in the correct position. So that's all sorted out now. All the lines are tied in neatly. So now we've already got the braided line through to the front of the brake bias valve. So now we've got to plumb the rest of this up and get it up to the handbrake assembly up here, and then the outlet, and get it to the rear wheels. All right, it's looking a lot tidier than it was, and certainly we've lightened it by taking some of that weight out. With all the new brake lines plumbed into the rear, it was just a matter of getting the old brake lines out, which proved more of a challenge than I expected. But then I had the same drama with the fuel lines as well. Next week, we'll get on and get the front brake lines all plumbed in, and then get the system bled, and that will be all the hydraulics and fuel taken care of. Then we can start tackling some of the other fun stuff. Hope you've enjoyed this stage 1 of the VR4 restoration. Please like and subscribe, and we'll catch you again soon. Cheers.